It begins with an elderly lady talking about a being she calls Satyr. She says it was in charge of everything. We see many papers with writings on them, which do not appear to be very legible. It is the elderly lady that writes them, because we see her continue writing even more. Then our point of view slowly enters a room lit by many candles. The elderly lady lies in bed. As all of this takes place, whispers are heard of an ominous nature. In another room, candles are placed on the floor in a pattern. Someone stands there, perhaps engaged in a ritual. Later, someone is lit on fire outside. So far, little sense can be made from what has been observed. The people living in this house are seriously engrossed in dealing with the paranormal. The scene changes considerably to a man engaging in target practice in a forest. He is out there with his dog. The man is Adam, who eventually occupies his cabin. A recorder plays in the background, from which a lady talks about Satyr in cryptic ways. On the next day, Adam is in the forest again, where he places something in a device on a tree. Back in his cabin, another man comes in. It is his brother, Pete. They go about their ways, mostly in silence. Soon enough, Pete comes to the device on the tree. He mentions that the card is probably not working properly. He also says that their grandfather has a lot of supplies at his house. There might be another card there. As they ride in a truck, Pete tells Adam that if he talked about Satyr, the home would have accepted him. The next scene has Pete sitting next to the elderly lady, Nanny, at her house. She is their grandmother. She tells him she sits in the same spot, and her brain is gone. Pete remarks that his brain is gone too. Nanny says that a man named Jim passed away. She has remained in that house long after his passing. He was possibly her husband. Outside the house, a lady sits to tell Adam she is very distracted there. She introduces herself to him as Evie. We see she appears to be somewhat dispassionate. She also asks if she can help him look for anything. Adam just shakes his head. After that, the brothers return to the forest and place another card in the device. It looks like they were able to collect one. Adam then uses a whistling tool for an unknown purpose, but nothing comes of it. Back in the cabin, he turns on the recorder to listen about Satyr again. It turns out that the lady talking is Nanny. She says Satyr will make you pure. At night in bed, Adam tries turning on the lamp. It does not work, so he resorts to using his flashlight. He believes something is there, yet the only thing that is his dog, which startles him with its barking. He sees it near the front door. It wants to come out. When he opens the door, the dog runs out. Adam sees a light in the distance. He does not seem to know what it is. In the morning, he goes searching for his dog, but does not find it. In his cabin, Adam opens a file named DeerCam on his computer. From it, he observes footage of the forest at night. Afterward, we see Pete coming to Nanny, who does not know who he is. He tells her he's her grandson. We now see she has some kind of condition, perhaps Alzheimer's. In her view, he changed a lot since she last saw him. However, he informs his grandmother that he was with her yesterday. Shortly after, Nanny says she used to do automatic writing. She was told what to write by a spirit. As she talks about it, we see some of her writing. Much of it looks nonsensical. It can even be a combination of writing and drawing. She says Satyr was helping her by training her to be a person. While she continues to talk about Satyr, our view gets focused on Adam in the house. Evie is there too, and he tells her that his dog ran off. As Adam rides back to the cabin with Pete, the latter expresses annoyance with having to hear about Satyr so much from Nanny. In the cabin, Adam continues to listen to his grandmother talk about Satyr. We do not know why he does it. Pete seems to want none of it, but his brother listens to the recordings frequently for an unknown reason. He does it while looking at the DeerCam again. Hearing something outside, Adam loads his shotgun. Following that, he slowly goes to open the door. Outside, he encounters Evie. She asks if his dog returned, to which he does not reply. He is a quiet man who keeps to himself. Evie, on the other hand, brought him something that was at his grandmother's house. He lets her inside the cabin. In there, she mentions how Pete was in some sort of accident. Then she expresses being glad that he got out of it okay. The thing she brought him is a photo album. He opens it and looks at pictures of himself along with his family. After looking at a certain picture for a few seconds, Evie says she is sorry for his mother. She asks him if anyone was able to find her. Adam gives a negative by shaking his head. As she talks, her voice gradually becomes overridden by ominous whispers. Strangely enough, we see she is no longer sitting there when Adam gets up. The sinister whispers continue. He lights his lantern and looks through the window. Once he tries to sit down, he discovers someone is sitting there in a creature costume. Adam becomes frightened, pointing his gun at the unknown individual. The person holds the picture of the forest taken by the DeerCam. After that, the recorder turns on. Nanny speaks about Satyr, knowing whoever. He is familiar with anyone's ways. At that point, the costumed person stands to remove their mask, revealing themselves to be a bald female. Nanny continues to say there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, an appropriate statement to what is currently happening. The costumed lady then moves the picture closer to Adam, as if suggesting that he investigate it. Once she does that, the lantern goes out. She is no longer there by the time Adam turns his flashlight on. He goes outside to search for her, but finds nothing except darkness. On perhaps the next day, Adam sits with Pete outside, who confirms to him that his dog is gone. He also thinks their grandfather sacrificed himself, so their mom could be with Satyr. Furthermore, he believes Nanny could have been involved in the sacrifice. Back in his cabin, Adam looks at the picture of the forest at night. He decides to crumple it before placing it in the furnace. About to start burning it, he finds the photo album there. It is unknown who put it there. Since it is in his hands now, Adam opens the book to look at the pictures. This seems to trigger a memory of a much earlier time. The family is there celebrating a birthday. Their grandfather was still alive, so it must be a decent number of years back. The flashback is of someone recording the event. It is done by Adam's sister, Deborah. She goes to record their mother in another room, who sits on the floor, seemingly engaged in something like a ritual. When she sees Deborah recording her, she closes the door while somewhat annoyed. In the other room, Pete says they need to burn the writings that are associated with Seder. Then Deborah comes to Adam, who sits looking lonely. She asks if Seder is talking to him. At that moment, we exit the flashback. Adam hears a creaking sound, followed by something crashing in another room. His door starts opening, so he leaves the room. After finding nothing in his cabin, Adam goes searching outside. There he finds Evie tied to a tree. This makes him look around anxiously. No one is discovered. When he unties her, she sees him and gets scared. For an unknown reason, he starts choking Evie. Shortly after, he seems to realize what he is doing, making him stop it. The man seems to have lost control over himself. What exactly prompted him to do that? As he lets go, Evie starts running away. He chases her, until he observes how the lady suddenly gets taken upward by an invisible force. Terrified, Adam then hears unsettling noises. The costumed lady from before comes out to look at him. Unable to take any more bizarre events, Adam runs away. In the morning, he covers his cabin with lit candles. Following that, he looks at the picture of the forest he was about to burn. Looking at it gives him the idea to turn on his laptop, where he accesses the deer cam. After adjusting the brightness level of the picture, he gets taken aback by seeing 4 sinister beings among the trees who appear to be like the lady who visited him. It does not take long, after him seeing this, for those very beings to start entering his cabin. He stands, scared, behind a wall with his gun. Soon enough, Adam runs out. He starts running through the water until he comes near a cave. Looking into its darkness, he sees the small flame again. At that point, the ominous whispers present themselves. Perhaps they are signaling for him to go in. So he enters the cave to find another costumed person standing with the flame. Behind this one, however, there is another one that looks even more sinister. It does not have human hands. Adam just looks at it, and we do not know what happens. The next scene has Pete in the snow, playing with a fox. It changes to a lady looking through Nana's writing. The lady is Deborah, who talks to Nanny about her writings. After them, we see her looking through bizarre drawings of faces. A particular passage that Nanny wrote captures Deborah's interest. It reads that someone was chosen from the furnace of affliction. That person may now present an offering by fire before purification to Seder. Once Deborah reads that passage, she asks if Nanny remembers the day her husband passed away. He was found lying lifeless on the grass, is what Nanny says. His demise, Deborah states, caused Pete to get into many problems with Evie. Afterward, Pete asks Deborah if Nanny's condition is genetic. With an attitude, she tells him if he thinks Seder eliminated their grandfather, she will send Pete back somewhere. It is uncertain of the place she wants to send him to. Their past is full of confusing and unexplained happening. Pete says he feels bad about leaving Adam up there. Again, his sister takes issue with his words. According to her, it wasn't safe for Adam to be around them. It was also she who left him in the cabin. Later, she hugs Pete. It is possible that she could be the sanest member of the family. In the next scene, Pete struggles to walk in the snow. Eventually, he enters Adam's cabin. He calls out to him, but Adam is not there. Upon sitting down, Pete sees Evie sitting before him, dressed in white. Suddenly, someone uses horns to stab Pete. That action is followed by his head getting placed in the burning furnace. Evie just sits there watching. We see that whoever ended Pete floats up in the blurred background. Back at Nanny's house, Nanny laughs for some reason. Later, Deborah looks for her. Unable to find her in the house, she searches outside. There she encounters Adam, who looks very different. He is also dressed in white, like Evie. The man starts choking his sister in the same way he did to Evie before she ran off. She is also there with him to pour gasoline on Deborah to burn her. As the fire consumes her, Evie levitates, just like Adam after he finished Pete. Seder's followers stand to observe. After all that, Adam returns to the house. We see his dog has returned, sitting next to someone. Adam goes to sit with Nanny and a Seder follower. It ends with footage of Nanny positively talking about Seder. It seems like the people who did not believe in Seder got destroyed by him. Adam kept listening to his grandmother's recordings regarding the entity for an unknown reason. Perhaps that was part of why he was kept alive.